Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Iti Namane Namah. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Keshav Bharati Das Goswami Iti Namane Namah. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadadhar Śrī Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. There's two verses specifically which we would like to read today, as well the text, of course, as the purport. I have come to have strong faith in reading Srila Prabhupada's purports aloud in the assembly of devotees. This has proven to be very 7-7. First we do 7-7. Has been proven to be very effective in understanding what has been said. It is also advised that we, even if we read alone, it is often advised that we actually read loud. Even we read well done that Shabda Brahman, the sound can go through our ears all the way through our heart. So even when we read alone, it is often advised that we actually read aloud. And of course in the assembly of the devotees, loud reading is also very effective. Mattaḥ parataраṁ nānyat kiñcid asti dhanañ-jaya mayi sarvam idaṁ protaṁ sūtre maṇi-gaṇā iva. That's the Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 7, text 7. Hare Krishna, Mother Krishna Priya. Welcome. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Please repeat that responsibly. O conqueror of wealth,
O conqueror of wealth,
there is no truth superior to me.
there is no truth superior to me.
Everything rests upon me
Everything rests upon me
as pearls strung on a thread.
as pearls strung on a thread.
The purport by His Divine Grace Śrīla Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad. There is a common controversy over whether the supreme absolute truth is personal or impersonal. As far as Bhagavad-gītā is concerned, the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and this is confirmed in every step. In this verse in particular, it is stressed that the absolute truth is a person, that the personality of Godhead is the supreme absolute truth is also the affirmation of the Brahma-saṁhitā. īśvaraḥ paramaḥ kṛṣṇaḥ sac-cid-ānanda-vigrahaḥ. That is, the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is the primeval Lord, the reservoir of all pleasure, Govinda, and the eternal form of complete bliss and knowledge. These authorities leave no doubt that the absolute truth is the supreme person, the cause of all causes. What I would like to see is that when we listen the text here and the next verse, and that we it would be nice if everybody could formulate a certain question at some point. Maybe a question you would have yourself, or a question you think could be useful when we speak to other people about the topic, right? So it would be good if everybody could formulate some form of question as I said, either because it's a question you generally have, or that you say, well, how could we present this philosophy to people who may have other opinions, and how we can discuss how we best serve that person in giving the proper answer. So Srila Prabhupada has just established very firmly how Krishna, the absolute truth personality of Godhead, is Lord Kṛṣṇa. Next paragraph. The impersonalist, however, argues on the strength of the Vedic version given in the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad. I think I should skip that Sanskrit because I don't know how to read it. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings and lower animals. But beyond Brahma, there is the Transcendence, who has no material form and is free from all material contaminations. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries of the material world. So this is the translation of this verse of the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad. Srila Prabhupada continues the purport and he says the impersonalist puts more stress on the word arupam. But this arupam is not impersonal. Any suggestions what the word arupam means? I think we could all figure out. Arupam.
At least there is no definite shape or figure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Shapelessness.
Rupa is form and arupam is
No material form.
no form. Yeah, but yeah. The personalist puts more stress in this verse, right? The impersonalist tends to put more stress on the word arupam. But Srila Prabhupada explains, this arupam is not impersonal. It indicates the transcendental form of eternally bliss and knowledge as described in the Brahma-saṁhitā quoted above. Other verses in the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad substantiate this as follows. I know that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he who knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of that Supreme Person. There is no truth superior to that Supreme Person because he is the supermost. He is smaller than the smallest, and he is greater than the greatest. He is situated as a silent tree, and he illumines the transcendental sky as a tree spreads its roots. He spreads his extensive energies. From these verses, one concludes that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all-pervading by his multi-energies, both material and spiritual. That's the end of this purport. As Krishna confirms in this 10th chapter that he says he is the source of all spiritual and material worlds, and everything emanates from me. Yeah, and how he is present, all-pervading by his multi-energies. I remember reading an article in Srila Prabhupada. He's writing that Mr. Tata, those who have been to India must have seen Tata left or right. This is a huge multinational business company, and they produce metal and whatnot, right?
They are into everything.
Sorry?
You name anything, they are into
They do it, yeah. So they have huge factories, extremely well equipped with up to state-of-the-art machinery and equipment. And then Srila Prabhupada says, if you go to one of these factories, Mr. Tata will not be there, right? Mr. Tata will not be there. But everything works under his supervision. Everything works, you could say, by his input and energy and arrangements. And he's the Supreme Person of the Tata company, right? Like Prabhupada says, among my disciples, I am the Supreme Person, right? So there is always a person, a Supreme Person behind. So we may not see Krishna, so to say, if we're not trained to see him or don't have the heart to see him in the material energy, but that would be incorrect or imprudent or shallow to conclude, oh, well, I don't see him, he's not there. A simple example in the verse itself, everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread, like I have this chain of wooden beads, like all of you also have. So you don't see the thread, do you? You see the thread somewhere? But we all know that without the thread, the pearls would not stay together, right? We don't see the thread, but if it wouldn't be there, the threads, the beads could not be staying in their place. In a similar way, it would be, as we just said, imprudent to conclude that there is no Supreme Person because we just don't see him. And the Vedic scriptures give ample evidence that Krishna is behind all the energies and the workings of material and spiritual nature. So there was this text of the 7th chapter, O conqueror of wealth. Of course, he's talking to Arjuna. There is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. Any particular, before we go to the next verse, any particular comments, ideas, or questions about this? Or reflections? Yeah, Andre.
Question a lot of people ask. There is a God.
There is a God, okay.
But why is there war?
Yeah.
So I think for me it's difficult to answer that. I don't know.
Okay. Very relevant question. But Andre Prabhu, he is saying, some people, they will argue, listen, just look at the state of the world, there is famine, there is drought, there are floods, there's earthquakes, there's volcano eruptions, there's politicians fighting, there is war all over the place. What do you mean there is an all good and merciful God? How would that be possible? If there would be a merciful and all good God, then how can it be that we live in such circumstances we do, right? That's the question, right? And actually it is true. It is even a well-known argument of atheists to argue that if there was a God, an all-good and merciful God, as the Christians in most cases want us to believe, then this would not be possible. So, conclusion, since all this is happening, there is no God. So our approach to that, by the mercy of Śrīla Prabhupada, is we take the nature of the material world in which we are into consideration. Lord Kṛṣṇa himself, he says, from the highest planet in the universe, the middle planetary system, down to the lowest planetary systems, all these spheres, all these planets, all these worlds are per definition places of misery, where repeated birth and death take place. Other definitions of given by the Vedas is that this world is actually considered to be a prison house, where living beings who do not conform, who do not behave in the right consciousness and attitude in spiritual culture, they get an opportunity to come to the material world and experience the laws of material nature. It would be, and then of course this is a very different perspective. If we start from the default setting that we are here to enjoy and everything should be fine, if we start from that, right, which people say, how come there is problems in the world? How can there be a God? Well, their default setting is we are here to enjoy and everything should be fine all the time for everybody. But that's not the Vedic version about the material world. The material world is a place where there will be problems. If you are pure souls, apart from those who are missionaries, they do not come into the material world. So everything here, what goes on, is due to the karma, to the laws of karma, individually and collectively, as a group, as a nation, as a planet, as a universe. There is the laws of nature, stringent laws of nature, Śrīla Prabhupada says. And that, the people who ask these questions, they are not informed of that. They think it's supposed to be paradise here, but something is wrong. So God is out of control. Either he is not there, or he died, or he lost control. Because things are not, we are not enjoying. We're not having a great time here, so there must be a problem. Right? That's where they start from. So our understanding is, well, the material world is not meant to be paradise. If you want to go to paradise, then read Prabhupada's books, apply them to your life, and you have a one-way ticket home. Which Prabhupada reassures us. But yeah, it's like going to a hospital and complaining that there are sick people, right? You go to a hospital and you say, this person is sick, that person is sick. Obviously, in a hospital you will find sick people and you will find difficulties. Or in a prison house, people have no freedom. Yeah, but there is a reason why they ended up there. So in a similar way, there is a reason why we have ended up in a material energy, so to say, although we ourselves are not material energy. There is a reason why we are in this incompatible situation where we try to be always happy and healthy, but that's not just the nature of the sphere where we are. This is the sphere of repeated birth, old age, disease and death. And especially in Kali Yuga, a very strong influence of the three modes of material nature and quarrel, hypocrisy, lazy, misguided, fighting, short-lived, confused, that's the sphere in where we are. And that's dominated by the laws of nature. So difficulty can be expected. Now the art is we're not going to change the world. We cannot. That's under Krishna's control. It's on a level where we don't have no impact. This is just the nature of the material world. So we can do our best to live a life as sane as possible and to live according to our standards and values as much as we can, given to us by Srila Prabhupada. But we're not going to change the nature of the world. We're not going to make the world a better place, so to say. Then there will be always the repeated birth and death, which goes with disease and old age and quarrel and difficulties. That's just the nature of the place. Do you think that will be an interesting answer for?
For me, it's okay, but to give it to another person, I can't. So.
What if you would give this in this direction? This you could say this thought process to these people. Would they? What do you think? Now, some yes, some no.
After this life, if you go to the spiritual world, there will be no more.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, just on this topic, is there any other approaches or any other elements we could add to help the people?
I think there are always problems here, somehow to remind us to come back to Krishna.
Okay. Thank you.
I think
So we should see the setbacks as an opportunity to grow and improve. Yes, thank you. Mataji? Sorry.
I want to say something more, because so many trouble in this world, and this is why, because people think just about these bodies.
Yes.
My husband dead, my mother dead in this world, and my family is dead, and this and this. And this is why so many people are suffering for this reason. Yeah, and they don't won't accept reincarnation, and this is why so many different religions are speaking about. Yeah, and people life is in darkness. They don't know this information about truth, about soul and body, and so many things.
Okay.
That is the reason why so many suffering is.
Interesting point. We're not the body, so yeah, should not identify too much with the physical circumstances. Prabhu?
Yeah. So I think what I would say is you should start with the reason behind the war. Okay, when we are pointing about the war thing, right? You should start the reason. There is a materialist.
Sorry, the reason behind the war or behind the why? I didn't hear clearly.
I know, behind the war basically.
War.
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why we are fighting? Let's talk about Ukraine, Russia, or anything for anything.
No, let's not talk about Ukraine.
No.
Let's talk about the war as a general.
As a general concept, right? Even for people fighting for anything.
Yeah.
It is just a material for which we are fighting. It's not,
Okay.
and that material somehow is giving us some sort of pleasure, what we call materialistic pleasure, right? Which we define in Gita also, that people run behind materialistic, pleasure. And that is why we are on this planet, and as you mentioned, we are in a kind of prison which the Lord has defined, right? The God has defined that we are in a prison, we have done something wrong, that is why this is our punishment. The moment we probably, complete our punishment period, we get released from this world and get the divine.
Yeah.
So it is like very simple. It's like be it any when you are at your workplace or you are at your home, the kind of satisfaction what you get, and when you enter into any temple or any religious place, you get a different kind of satisfaction.
Okay.
Because when you enter any religious place, there is nothing, you are running behind the material or something. There's some sort of mental divine pleasure that you get, some peace that you get basically.
Okay. Thank you. So your proposal is to the people: please go to a religious place and take advantage of what is being offered to you for the purification.
Right, for your purification.
Thank you.
It can be anything.
Okay, thank you. Jochan Prabhu.
Right. I like as you said, this world is a prison house, right? So what we can expect when we are in the prison house, if you don't follow the laws, we have to expect problems, right? In any situation, in any place, when you don't follow the laws, like either you are in traffic, if you have the traffic lights, if you can pass over the red light, but nobody will dare to stop you, but you expect to have some problems.
Sure.
So this world is like that. So we have to expect some problems because we became rebellious against the authority of God.
Yep.
Right? So
Okay.
we are placing here, and until we recognize there is some authority which rules the world, and we have to obey to that rules in order to go back to the spiritual world, we have expect always to have some problems. Prabhupada used to say sometimes, we are like a fish out of the water. We always struggle since birth to death. So this is struggling. This is not our environment.
Okay.
So problems is always there.
Hare Krishna. Shall we move on to the next verse? And Bhakta Andre Prabhu, are you satisfied with this? Yeah. We are now in chapter 15 and we are reading text 15, verse and purport. Sarvasya chaham ridistani visto mattaḥ jnanam apohanam cha vedascha sarver aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas. Please repeat responsibly. I am seated in everyone's heart.
I am seated in everyone's heart.
And from me come remembrance,
And from me comes remembrance,
knowledge
knowledge,
and forgetfulness.
and forgetfulness.
By all the Vedas,
By all the Vedas,
I am to be known.
I am to be known.
Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta,
Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta,
and I am the knower of the Vedas.
and I am the knower of the Vedas.
Śrī Kṛṣṇa Jai. Prabhupada Jai. The purport. The Supreme Lord is situated as param atma in everyone's heart, and it is from him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. I think that's pretty much to Bhakta Andre Prabhu's question. It helps there. Thus the Lord is not only all-pervading, he is also localized in he is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different fruitive results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Param Atma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, he is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of his activity, and the giver of knowledge in the form of the Vedas. And as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, the teacher of the Bhagavad-gītā, he is worshipable by the conditioned soul. Thus, God is all good, God is all merciful. Anta pravishta shasta jananam. The living entity forgets as soon as he quits his present body, but he begins his work again, initiated by the Supreme Lord. Although he forgets, the Lord gives him the intelligence to renew his work where he ended his last life. So not only does a living entity enjoy or suffer in this world according to the dictation from the Supreme Lord situated locally in the heart, but he receives the opportunity to understand the Vedas from him. If one is serious about understanding the Vedic knowledge, then Kṛṣṇa gives the required intelligence. Why does he present the Vedic knowledge for understanding? Because a living entity individually needs to understand Kṛṣṇa. Vedic literature confirms this. Yosau sarver veder gyate. In all Vedic literature, beginning from the 4 Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of the Vedic philosophy, and worship of the Lord in devotional service is attained. Therefore, the purpose of the Vedas is to understand Kṛṣṇa. The Vedas give us direction by which to understand Kṛṣṇa and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta Sutra 1.1.4 confirms this in the following words: Tat tu saman vayat. One can attain perfection in 3 stages. By understanding Vedic literature, one can understand this relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By performing the different processes, one can approach him, and at the end, one can attain the supreme goal, who is no other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, the purpose of the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas, and the goal of the Vedas are clearly defined. So I don't know if they say it in English, but in Dutch they will say something like, the ball is in our camp, right? Do they say that in English? In Dutch? Do they say that in Dutch? The ball is in our camp? The ball, not in English I mean? The ball is in our camp. Yeah? Okay. So after all the work that Śrī Guru and Śrī Kṛṣṇa have done to reorient and redirect us in the correct direction of our spiritual future. And well, you could say, if we don't apply it, because it is said Krishna needs to be individually understood, meaning that we all have the responsibility or the opportunity, each individually. We all have our homework. I can't do your homework and you cannot do mine, right? It is said, like in a formation of birds flying to the south or to the north, there's the leader bird, they fly in a V formation. There is one bird all the way in the front, and all the other ones they follow. They may change positions sometimes, I heard, but anyway, but the idea here is that every bird, although following the leader, every bird has to flap their own wings, right? So the guidance is clearly given, the path is outlined, the destination is clear, and then let's try to apply the instructions and the teachings and the guidelines to our individual personal life, and not just 1.5 hours a week, but as a culture, as a lifestyle, as a consciousness. And then Srila Prabhupada, he repeatedly, you could say, reiterates, or even you could say promises. If you do so, the way back home, back to Godhead is wide open. So, right, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. On this verse, any more, please, thoughts or comments or any questions you could be confronted with? We will repeat the verse many times if you like. Okay, the verse is chapter 15, text 15, where Lord Kṛṣṇa is explaining to Arjuna, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas.
So, can you, I don't know if this question already asked, but can we also not say then properly that that those who say there's no God, there's no God at all, I don't believe it.
Okay.
That is all that knowledge and that forgetfulness is also supplying, because there's is a source of knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance.
Okay. Smart cookie. I think you could argue in that direction, but that doesn't put us out of having the responsibility. It is just said here that we may forget, we do forget mostly, our past lives, our experience. As soon as we leave this body, very soon we forget what just happened, and when we get into another body, then most of us, we have no clue, actually, no idea who, in which body, country, whatever circumstances I was in my previous life, who were my parents, who were my brothers, sisters, my dog, my house. No, we don't know. Most people don't know. So the Paramatma is just said here in the Purport, which is the guide in everyone's heart, puts everybody on the track where he left off in his previous existence, right? Just as a small illustration, that's why you have like these virtuous piano players at age 6 or 7 or something. They never really studied, and they play the most complicated, So they bring this samskars, these imprints, they bring this from previous existences. and somebody may be very knowledgeable or attracted to a certain knowledge or country or activity. These things we bring from previous lives. So all the way down our journey in the material world, we get the result of our decisions and desires and plan makings, and so who we are today and how we think today and is facilitated by the super soul based on our this lives and past lives experiences and decisions we made and things we have accepted and rejected, which makes us into the thinker or in the thinker we are today. So if somebody comes to the very grossly atheistic conclusions and writes books about that and gives lectures about that and banging fists on the table how there is no God, then it is we can understand it is by the mercy, you could say, of the super soul. If he so decidedly wants to believe that and think that and proclaim that, then he is welcome to do so. He is welcome to do so in the material world. Although it doesn't serve any purpose, but in the material world, not so many things serve purposes. Would that be a good approach, Prabhu?
Yes. So also then that the opinions, everyone thinks we have a very special opinion in this material world. This is my opinion, but it's not so original then.
No.
It is a guidance, it's just a particular arrangement of the modes of nature alone.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. True.
I have a question.
Please.
Like it is said in the Gita also that anything what we do on the spiritual platform is not lost. We carry to the next life.
Okay.
So like you are saying right now, our present situation depends of what we left in the last life. So is it possible that in the last life, we all people who are sitting here, we were devotees, or we were at least trying to be devotees, and we are again here?
There are different.
Because we are here today. So
We are here today.
So we
yes.
built some karma in our past life, or somehow in some other life, and
It's,
and we are continuing that path again.
It may be. It may. Of course, it may be. Yeah. But also another very realistic and very probable way is to consider that if it was not for Srila Prabhupada's mercy and endeavor and of the whole Guru Parampara, I'm not so sure where I would be today. I would probably not be sitting in a temple. You know? You know what I'm saying? So yes, but we shouldn't think too much of our previous lives. Not that we were great Vaishnavas or something. You know, there may be, of course, situations, but for our situation, I think we are the recipients of what they call causeless mercy. You know, sometimes you get an offer which you were not really deserving of, but it's being given to you. And then it would be wonderful if you could take the best advantage possible. So I think, at least for myself, and I think for many of us, we are in that kind of situation. It is by the mercy of the spiritual master that we have been offered this opportunity in the emergency exit of the roller coaster of repeated birth and death, you know, which we've gone through countless times, and having not so much done to deserve it in the past, but now it's been offered to us by the intense desire of the Vaishnava to please Krishna. Yeah. So, and it may be that we had some agyata sukriti, yeah, from previous life. That may be, but anyway, we're not in the past. We are here now, and now we have all these wonderful suggestions, indications, guidelines, encouragement, and clear knowledge about where we are, why we're here, where we're supposed to go, how we reach there. So let's take the fullest advantage, regardless of what we were in the past. Does that make sense? Thank you. Lochan Prabhu.
So the Muslims, they say that God doesn't have no form.
Okay.
But they don't believe that they have a form. Sorry. Yeah. So they don't believe that God has any image, no any form.
Okay.
So it also is not written in the Quran. So
Somebody knocking the window.
anybody, no, there's many. So I would like to say, what you will say to them, to the Muslims, that they don't believe in any form, so they don't accept any form of God.
Well, I don't think there is like, or I would be careful with saying the Muslims, and because we don't say the Hare Krishnas, because among the Hare Krishna people there is still a lot of individuality, and depending on who you are talking with, you may want to say something different. Although they may be the people of the same faith, right, and the same scriptural conclusions, but still depending on who you have in front of you, you may want to say different things. If the person is very adamant, very strong, very fanatic, so to say, about his conviction, I say, yeah, Hare Krishna, thank you for your time. Salam alaikum, alaikum salam, and God is great. And then you leave it at that, and you live in good friendship. Now, if you have a more mature person, and you could say other things, you could say, in our scriptures, which we also take to be sacred, a different level of religion is presented, and there it is suggested that since you have a personality, I have a personality, you are not me, I am not you, right? So there is personality, no two dogs are the same, no two apples on the tree are the same, so this aspect of individuality is present everywhere. So we believe it must also be present in the origin. We believe for that reason that God must be a person, because we are all persons. So how can we have something that God does not have? That would kind of undermine the position of God. If I have a form, I have a name, and I have my likings and not likings, how come this is not personal? This is not present in the origin of everything. Yeah? So depending on who you have in front of you, you can try to say something different. Is that a good idea?
I think everybody has a right of free will to believe
Also, yeah.
what they want and what they don't.
Yeah.
So you
That's
cannot-
true.
We cannot forcefully somebody convince something about something. Right?
No, we have to understand that religion is like a pyramid, right? It's a pyramid. And actually, when people they have a very high understanding about religion, they will come to the same point and they understand each other. And less understanding that you have about religion, then you are on the bottom of the pyramid, so more counteract, more.
That's what he's saying, depends on who you have in front of you.
More problems you have, in understanding with the spirit.
Aiming to speak to different persons.
Yeah, Prabhu asked what would we say about the formlessness of God, and which is suggested in some religions.
It depends. Indeed, what you say. We call that there's two forms of teachings. One is called, what was it again? I told you last time. One is Tatkalika and Sarva Kalika. Kalika means time, circumstances, place, the type of person, type of level of what they understand. And Tat means at that particular moment. And then the other teachings, which is in all scriptures, here and there, scattered, or maybe more prominent or less prominent,
Okay.
that is Sarva Kalika. Means the actual ultimate truth, which is applicable at all times, in all circumstances, of all places, to all persons.
Okay.
And every scripture has this too, and they have to determine very well what is Tatkalika and what is Sarvakalika. And all the problems in the world between religions is only because of taking the one for the other.
Exactly.
Om Tat Sat. Yeah, that was beautiful. Yeah. Okay. And also, the spiritual world is indefinitely, unlimitedly large, and can accommodate various levels of commitment and faith and insight and rasa and attitudes and relationships. So, okay, Hare Krishna. If that is your conclusion,
It's a very nice addition.
if that is your conclusion that you want to worship God in that way, please, we have other inspiration, we have other guidance and other. We feel at home and comfortable and duty bound in another way. So, okay, no hard feelings.
All are fitting in.
Yeah, should be.
And are embraced.
Hare Krishna.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere read in Bhagavad-gītā that people worshipping demigods and people worshipping other religions finally have to reach the level of Krishna consciousness. So, or you take a lift or you come by stairs, finally you have to reach at that level. So.
Unless you insist on having
What was the question?
Now he's saying that everybody has a free will to worship which demigod or god you want to worship. I said I read
I
something
mean
about
that should be our
yeah, that should be our
Yeah.
choice.
our approach also.
Yeah.
If there is confronting views or confronting conclusions or about worshipping God, yeah. You grew up in that tradition, that's your conclusion, that's what you can handle, that's what you understand, that's what you worship, that's what you truly believe, so yeah.
I think it also has to make with how much conviction you have and belief of a certain god you are worshipping or
Okay.
what your real belief is, what level of consciousness you want to reach.
Okay.
What Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā about it? Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā about that something, that he gives the faith.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He gives the faith to
Somebody,
someone needed.
Yeah. Somebody wants to worship demigods and make their faith strong, right? Or worship any.
That might change.
It was just last thing to say. That is why, in India, there was always no need I can speak.
We are recording it.
Oh, really?
That's why we have.
So the reason, in India, there is always, the talkings in the end of the day, which there used to be all the philosophers and leaders, in the religious, they used to discuss all the topics. And then by discussing, all the topics of different aspects of philosophy and religion, so they could enlighten everyone. And there was a system which when they discuss and they defeated another leader in philosophy and logic, there was a system that people, they will surrender to the teacher. And then they become, disciples of the teacher when they feel it sincerely, they got it defeated by the philosophy. This is why one of the reasons why the Buddhists at certain point they was expulsed, from India, and they went to China, to Indonesia, to all these countries. That was one of the reasons. So nowadays there is no this discussion. So people, they don't talk, they don't enlighten each other. So they cannot really understand. So the people, they get confused, about everything. Everybody is very individual, and they leave it, by themselves.
Okay.
So they cannot really have a clue of a really understanding about what is reality and illusion, because life is all about to understand what is reality and illusion.
So you are saying, if I understand well, that before there would be, for instance, two people of a different denomination or faith or commitment, they would meet, they would discuss based on their own scriptures, they would exchange arguments, and if one would understand, well, that seems to be superior knowledge, he would accept the other person and the other scripture as his teacher and mold his life accordingly.
Right.
Yeah, but there's too much false ego today. This doesn't work anymore, I guess.
Three discussions in three discussions: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. You can tell.
No, please go ahead. No, please.
There's three discussions. One in the mode of goodness is what you're describing there. That no matter what my opinion is, the truth prevails. The truth is the most important, and we follow that truth. And the second one, in the mode of Rajaguna, or passion, is that no matter what is the truth, my opinion is the most important. Or you would say, because of that mode of nature, they cannot even understand that there's another truth which is superior. And in the mode of ignorance, it is who can shout
The
the
loudest
hardest,
is the winner.
who can make the most advertisement, they win.
Okay.
Like something like presidential selections in elections somewhere.
Prabhu, I want to say something.
Please.
Can I have the microphone? Yes. I think the Supreme God Krishna, sitting in everyone's heart, has given us a free will to act. And so did the Prabhupada. He followed his instructions. He started this movement with a bucket of gulab jamun and transformed the hippies, who he said they are living in mode of ignorance. I think that more degraded mode of living than hippies does not exist. So he transformed hippies to devotees with a bucket of gulab jamun and Mahamantra.
Mahaprasad.
Yeah, Mahaprasad and Mahamantra. So he gave them a free will. You want, you come, you eat gulab jamun and you go. And they start liking it. Finally, the mantra and the Krishna sitting in their heart, he showed them the spiritual truth.
Yes, but the example that you give, thank you, brings to mind this example. If you like drive a screw into wood, right? You're a carpenter and the screw has to go in the wood. If you drive it too fast, the wood may split open. Mission not accomplished, right? So you put in the screw a little bit, you let it sit for a day or so, that the screw kind of the wood kind of accepts the presence of the screw, and you tight it a bit further.
That's what he did.
That's what Srila Prabhupada did also with his disciples. In the very beginning, it was a bucket of Mahaprasadam Gulab Jamuns, yes, and a Mahamantra. But then you see, as his mission grew, as disciples became more committed, as ISKCON became more mature, so many other things entered the scene. It didn't remain only Gulab Jamuns.
Afterward, the growth happens naturally.
One more time.
Afterward, the mission grows naturally.
Yeah, of course.
It took
Yeah.
his path.
So, I see.
But how he started, I'm saying,
So, okay.
there were people in ignorance living and
I see.
he changed them with the power of mantra.
So you're saying Mahamantra and Prasadam, that's beautiful, yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
Do
That's not all, but it's beautiful to start
we
with.
want to continue with something reading?
I was thinking to do that, but do we, how are we time-wise? Yeah. So it's
very nectarian, and everyone agrees to listen to that more.
It's on the topic, but from a different book. It's on the topic of the Shastra and how Shastra is important. That's an understatement. As we all know, there's this 10 offenses which one can commit in the realm of chanting the holy name, and the fourth offense is said to be the criticizing the scriptures, right? So there's good reasons for that. I will read a few verses of a text, which is a discussion, you could say, or between Srila Haridas Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Haridas Thakur said, "Lord, now I will describe the fourth offense, to blaspheme the Vedic literature, or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version, an offense that denies a person the nectar of pure devotion. The Shruti, Shastra, Vedas, Upanishads and Puranas are manifested from Lord Kṛṣṇa's breathing. In every situation they are the best evidence for the truth. The Vedic scriptures are evidence for the truth of what lies beyond the material world. The material senses cannot perceive what lies beyond the material world. Without Lord Kṛṣṇa's mercy, one cannot see or experience that world. Human knowledge is plagued by 4 defects." Anybody want to? The material condition is plagued by 4 defects. Can we list them?
Adi Bautik.
No. Let's try the English if you don't mind.
The birth.
No. That's not. Now the human condition has 4
4 defects.
It's like in the how you call it, introduction of Upanishad, Srila Prabhu.
It has a
Yes.
tendency to cheat others.
Thank you.
Yes.
There's a tendency to cheat.
Oh,
It's in that, yeah.
I want them to
Its
answer.
senses are imperfect.
Thank you. We have imperfect senses. We do, at least I don't know about you, but we do sometimes make
You have the
mistakes.
tendency
And we tend to be in illusion, right? So I read this verse again. Human knowledge, that's us, the human condition, is plagued by 4 defects. It's imperfect senses, mistakes, the tendency to cheat, and illusions. The 4 Vedas are free from these defects. Without the Vedas, one cannot walk on the path of the highest spiritual goal of life. Being very merciful to the souls imprisoned by Maya, Lord Kṛṣṇa took the wisdom of the sages and gave it to the imprisoned souls in the form of the Vedas, Puranas and other scriptures. I know, Haridas Thakur saying, I know that the Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda parts of the Vedas are worthless like 2 piles of ashes. Only the Vedas teaching about pure devotional service is sublimely good, the best of all truths. The souls in the material world are bewildered by Maya. After first purifying them with the processes of karma and jnana, and thus making them qualified, Lord Kṛṣṇa teaches the conditioned souls the truth about pure devotional service, Suddha Bhakti. The words of the Vedas are the best evidence. This evidence reveals 9 truths. The teachings of the Vedas may also be described as sambandha, the relationship between the individual soul and the Supreme Lord, abhideya, the activities of that relationship or devotional service, and prayojana, the soul's true need, which is to love the Supreme Lord. Would you like to hear what the revelation, the Vedic liberation of the 9 truths are? This is in the footnote of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. In the 10 root teachings of the Vedas, the first teachings is the truth that the Vedas are the only true source of knowledge. The other root teachings are the 9 teachings also mentioned here. Those 9 teachings are: 1. Lord Kṛṣṇa is the only supreme truth. 2. His form is dark and handsome, and he is the master of all potencies. 3. His dark and handsome form is filled with the sweetest nectar. 4. The numberless individual souls are spiritual atomic particles. They are separated parts and parcels, vibhinamsa, of Lord Kṛṣṇa. 5. The individual souls who have turned their faces from Lord Kṛṣṇa are imprisoned by Maya. 6. The pure devotees are liberated, free from Maya's prison. 7. The individual spirit souls and the inert world of matter, manifested by the Lord's inconceivable potencies, are eternally one and different from the Lord. 8. Abhideya means the 9 kinds of activities in devotional service to Lord Kṛṣṇa. And the last is pure love for Kṛṣṇa is the true need, the true goal of life for the individual spirit souls. Hare Krishna. There is more, but maybe we should not take an overdose.
No, you should go back and post part 2.
Okay.
Very good. But we, yes, we have still 6 or 7, 8 minutes.
Okay. Matajis and Prabhus, any comments, questions, reflections, additions? If not, we can maybe chant for another 6 minutes.
Yes, come on.
Yeah.